T is saying is that this is the existence of the hours and hours of me doing the stream. It could be considered like probably a symptom of something. Probably a big, you know, red flag, green flag, depending on who you are. Hey, what's up, Cat? Hi again, Purple. Okay. You got your resin 3D printer running a test print. Awesome. See, I've got to keep the I've got to keep T. You called this out. I've got to keep the controller close enough that people are like, okay, so there is in theory a game here. True, but my translations have sped up. Which is making it feel less like, you know, halfway and more like much further than that. Crane, I did not call you. Even Crane, my cat's like, you have to stop. You have to stop. Yep. You can chill, but you can't come over here. Yeah. So then he likes to... I've seen the footage. I know that, like, now he's like, okay, I'll just sit next to you, and then he just, like, reaches over to try to knock stuff off the table. Come here. Come here. Get some purrs in the mic there. Yeah, good stuff. Now go. All right, where was I? No. I think I made it to survival tips. I will say one thing, and I jumped into the game for a minute last night to check this, but it does seem odd, especially that they, because it feels like they're very careful with their chosen words and their language and stuff like that. So on the pages, specifically about, you know, prayer to sort of open those columns, it talks about be still for a moment and rest. And as soon as I translated that bit, I was like, okay, wait. When they talk about the soul meter and magic points refill when you rest. And I was like, no shot that that's true. And I went in and did the little resting thing, and it doesn't do anything with the soul meter, as far as I can tell. Maybe I was doing it wrong. So I'm not seeing a connection there that I would expect. Like, that seems a little bit a weird doubling of the language when, like I said, it seems like they're pretty careful about that normally. But I could have also been doing it wrong. But that was like the last thing that I did on stream last night before I was like, all right, I'm toast. Oh, let's see. Let me pull up the counter. I always forget to bring up the counter for these streams. So, because it is still technically a game stream. It's just the game right now is taking place like this. So I keep track of, by my head, the number of times I've died in this particular game, the number of insights that I've drawn from it for our game design talks, and in this case, the number of clues I've had to use, which for this game is somewhere around 4. I don't know where exactly I'd draw that line, but enough help that I'd consider it 4. Right. Yeah. Yeah. In any case, it's not a big deal, but $23, $24. Did I get this flipped? Wait a minute. 23. Am I out of my mind? I'm guessing that there's a 25 that I just didn't bother printing. Let me check my screenshots. Yes, because 25 is an all-color full-page shot of the 3 keys. Very dark, no text. Yep. I probably could have inverted the colors and it would have printed okay, but whatever. No translation value, no print. Which is how we end up on page 26. My dude, go lay down. I know I can see how tired you are. Go sleep. Go sleep. Such a dork. Yeah, I knew it. I knew it. Bruce is good. He's not as needy for attention. He basically yells at me whenever he thinks he's running out of food. Okay. Thanks for the update. This stream should help with that. There you go, D's got it too, yeah. Hey, what's up, Toothpaste? Just translating these pages from Tunic. So it's the new one that's failing. Yeah, I can see it. It could also be failing because it's working hard. It's been converting some footage for me at the same time, which is just, you know, cruel on my part. It should be okay, but it could be that. You would think it'd be okay because all that the computer's being asked to do is, yes, convert this video, but also the video that it's receiving and combining with my camera, all it's doing is then displaying it to an output via HDMI. So I wouldn't really think, but like that makes me think it's not the Mac, it's probably the capture card. These things are, it's why I need to sit down and I guess learn about high traffic network, like local network stuff, because I think the only limiting factor for me using the NDI stuff we were talking about last night is I think you have to have a pretty high throughput, like whatever you're passing around from machine to machine, you have to be able to handle that and whatever you're going to be bringing in, sending in or out to the internet itself. So I'd have to, it would take a bit of a rebuild, but it would probably be better. Because I wouldn't be relying. It's like if I buy a capture card for, you know, $50, that means it probably costs like $7 to make, and then it's like everything that I'm relying on is then passing through whatever is the cheapest version of this that random manufacturer so and so put together. It's like, yeah, stuff's just gonna fail probably all the time. It's probably just a flip of the coin. I think it would have to be hardware. That seems like the most likely when it's that type of a, you know, glitch, but yeah. The problem is I also have a whole lot of confirmation bias, because if I then swap it out with a new one and the problem changes or disappears for some period of time, it's like, oh, that was it. Right, so now we're getting into there's a bunch of things now that I believe that I'm not sure that I should, but these things feel true about my setup. And it's only because I've seen them happen in this way. It sure seems like a couple of things can cause a glitch to happen. And it's going to sound insane. A lot of times when Crane is jumping up on top of my chair, there's a glitch. I can't even begin to imagine why. It'd have to be some sort of a weird static thing that I'm not even sure how I would begin to track down. I do think that stuff with like the dryer running or being started, I think that things can certainly be jiggled where the things are stored by the cats. I can't see that because that's on the other side of this wall. all of these things make me feel like I'm a crazy person, and I'm connecting things that aren't real to one another. All I do know is that the power of your soul using magic items consumes it. Yeah. Oh, I was going to go with the cat's electric. It's a Pokemon. Okay, so keep an eye on your bars. Survival tips, first block here. First bit, your will to go on. Improve potions with ash to gain more HP per sip. If it's flashing, you're out of breath. Remember, you take extra damage. See page 16. Power of your souls, the third one. Using magic items consumes it. Some foes leave their souls. Next. So tired all the time, you can run. Your stamina points refill even when running. So you can enter fights strongly. Rolling everywhere will exhaust you. Boy, that's worded so funky. I do. I mean, it's no weirder than other stuff in the game manual, so. Like, your stamina points refill even when running, so you can enter fights strongly. It's like, okay. Well, yeah, that'd be a way better way to word it. This is worded in an odd way. So I think something I'll be looking very closely at, because I've been thinking this whole time, like, how are these pages going to work? There are directional page numbers on a lot of these pages. So if I go to page 12, where we start, I wonder, it directs going right to page 13, right to page 17, right to page 14. (13, 17, 14). None of which connects here. But if I add those up, that's too many. Are those even on here? I'm getting ahead of myself, but like that's gonna be probably what I look into. That feels consistent. That feels, well, I have to occupy my mind while I'm translating. Try new cards. Have you discovered how to use cards? Be sure to make wishes if you have coins. And I'm like, what a paragraph of who cares. But right to page 20, now that would be necessary on this page. Ooh, there's also right to page 16. Is that, that would be the wrong direction even. Anyway. Well, if they're pointing right and left, it could be right to add and left to subtract. In other words, that would go to a page 36. Which there isn't one here, so. Yeah. But maybe there's another. So left arrow there. I don't know. We'll get there. I know. I'm just jabbering. Obviously, much more important to say, use your items. It's cute. Hey, Ryan. Do I have any recommendations when trying to get new people to play D&D? Putt got the axe, T, which is a funny thing to say, which nobody is going to understand. So forget that. Ignore that. It'll come back once I figure out a better visual. Okay, so recommendations for trying to get new people to play D&D. I've done this a couple of times, and my advice is not going to is not easy. So first we'll ignore, I'm just going to sort of jettison the first part of the advice, which is, it's probably best to play D&D with people who are into D&D, right? Obviously, that's always great. But let's say that they're people that you want to introduce it to, or maybe that are curious, but they've never played before. So how do you introduce them to the game? I think it can be really helpful when getting a game ready for new people to try to give them an adventure, give them an opportunity in game that aligns with stuff that they're already interested in some way, right? The nice part about this game that we run is that it can be anything. It can be anything. There's a reason, and when I talk about D&D, I'm not talking about the 5th edition specific rule set by Wizards. I'm talking about D&D like we own this decades-long hobby, and it's gone to space, and it's gone certainly into fantasy stuff. It's gone to modern times. It's been used for everything, right? Horror games and silly games, and where you play as goblins or forest creatures. So depending on who my audience is, I'm going to try to put together, typically it's a one-shot is what I'm putting together to try to interest a new person. A one-shot is great in a number of ways. Most importantly, it's one session. When you're introducing Dungeons and Dragons to a new person, the thing you need to probably, reassure them right off the bat is that, hey, there's a way to play this that's just like playing any other board game. Have you played board games before? It's a lot like that. It's just way better. If you've got a couple of hours like you could spend playing a board game, we could play this instead. People assume all sorts of things when they don't know the game yet, when they've never had the experience of playing it. They think that, do I need to dress up? Do I need to use silly voices? Is it going to take weeks? It's going to be really complicated. Do I need to buy some books? It's like, I'll take care of all that. I try to create an environment for a new player that is as low effort as possible. I don't need them to think up a character. I don't need them to think about the game at all before they sit down. Like you said, T, insert clip to Deborah Ann Wool video. I'll find the button for it. You want people to be able to sit down, sort of get into the game and sort of forget themselves a little bit and have fun. So I'll give you some concrete examples. I had a friend years ago who was highly suspicious of D&D as a game. But I would talk about it, right? I'd be like, yeah, I had a really great, I just learned this and had a great session or whatever. I'm not pushing on people, but people are curious. And I just kind of posed the question to her. I said, what would it take if I wanted to introduce you to this game? And she's like, I don't know, if there was something, if I could play in the Harry Potter world, then I would try it out. Okay. So I spent a month, read the Harry Potter books, and I came up with a one-shot set in the semester after Voldemort's eviscerated, and focused on the first sort of new student body coming into the school after all of that. Ended up being like a 3-4 hour one shot with a group of people that included this person, and they got to see what's fun about it, and they understood the game, and that was fun for them. A less extreme example of that, nice little glitchy flash there. A less extreme example of that, there was somebody who I brought to my table once who was, kind of skeptical, kind of like, haha, what is this? Like, you guys, this is weird. And the one shot that I chose to run that night, and everybody else, had played before, and this person was new, was my commoner one shot, where there's this horrible event happening in a small town, and everybody's playing commoners, and it's basically like it's a buzzsaw. You're running commoners into this troll or whatever monster, and desperately trying to put it down, and it kind of takes on this kind of silly tone, and you're constantly picking sort of new. I had all the minis kind of on the table, so it felt almost kind of like a board game. Using miniatures can help with that. It's not necessary, but the point is, like, people were kind of drawing cards, like, oh, this is my new commoner, and kind of improvising attacks with like a table leg or like a pitcher of like a steel pitcher or something, and just whacking the thing. And the skeptical player by the end of the night was like knocking over drinks. They were so excited to be playing the game, or they were at least enjoying themselves, I should say. So the summary here is you want a low set of requirements on that new player. You don't want to inundate them with stuff that they have to do to have fun. You want to get them to the fun part as fast as you can, because there is a whole bunch of stuff that we do in the game that, is debatably fun, arguably fun. There's paperwork. There's stuff that you, at some point in the game, are going to want to probably do to further invest, but nobody wants to do that stuff before they've seen evidence of the fun. A lot of people coming to the game nowadays have seen Matt Mercer, or they've seen Dimension 20, or they've seen, all these great examples of the game played at like a super high level. They've also seen Stranger Things, or they've seen maybe the Dungeons and Dragons movie, whatever they've seen. And so there's a lot of context they bring to the table that can actually be, in my opinion, sometimes harder to deal with than somebody who's brand new, has kind of no idea. They're like, I don't know, it's a game with books is all I know. That's almost easier because the expectations of each person is very, very different. You're not fighting against kind of weird ideas of the game from somebody who has watched 1,600 hours of an actual play and expects everything to kind of operate just like that. If somebody has never experienced the game before, you want to get them into the mindset of a character, seeing and exploring and experiencing cool things. The first time a player who's never done it before, who's skeptical about the game, is put in a situation where I'm like, all right, you're standing, you're hidden, and about 50 feet from where you are is a door that you need to get through, and there are 2 guards at that door. What do you do? And you can sort of see in their mind, like, they've experienced this before. I mean, they haven't. They've probably never been asked before, but they've read books, they've seen TV shows, they've seen movies, and they have had some version of a set of thoughts that's like, well, that was not the right way, or, ooh, that's the right way to do that. They've never gotten to put themselves in the perspective of somebody with that problem to say, the player will kind of look at their sheet like, well, what can I do? I go, forget the sheet. Just, what would you do? Think about it. How do you solve this problem for yourself? I'll tell you when there's a roll or something to look on your sheet. Just get into that mindset. And I think people really, when given permission and given a safe place to pretend together, I think it's just one of those human universals, right? It may not be something that somebody decides they want to do all the time. I think it's really rare that people don't see the value in it and see and become sort of intrigued by it. Once you kind of catch them, once you hook them, once they have that experience that's fun, once they enjoy that one shot, maybe it takes 2 one-shots. To a certain extent, there's a social element to this. Like, how do you invite new people to some club, or how do you introduce somebody to your social group? It's like, well, you want to make it low commitment. You want to make it easy. You want to make it fun. You don't want to hound them. You don't want to give them, difficult questions or like hard. You don't want to challenge them. You just want them to see the game and see the environment that you're kind of cultivating at the table as, hey, that's a really fun thing to do that I like. From there, in my experience, you're going to have players fall into really a couple of categories. One that is, well, that was fun. I'll do another one shot sometime. That was neat. Yeah, keep me in the rotation. Let me know when you guys are doing one. That's what I like. And the other is somebody who'll go like, so wait, so like, it'll come through with they'll have questions. So we're like, so you guys play this, but you guys you guys play it every week. We'll be like, yeah, we played every week. They have like characters. Like, wait, so you can have how do you create a, and they'll give you every opening you need to say like, okay, great. Well, if you want to, yeah, you can create a character, come up with a name, and we build a backstory, and basically you follow that character through multiple adventures, just like tonight, and we develop a story together as a group. And you might be surprised if you, again, focus on that one-shot experience, that tight, effective, fun couple of hours of the game, and if that works well and they enjoy that, they might be hooked. They might be in it. There, I'll pause. Was any of that helpful? I hope so. It felt right. It's what I believe, but I didn't necessarily know where I was going when I started talking. So, T, your potential player says she's wanted to play for a while, but she's never had an opportunity. Would you treat this new player experience the same way you'd treat a skeptical player? Never had an opportunity. Would I treat it as a skeptical? I kind of treat all of so. I only ask players to do extra work if it's absolutely necessary. So if it's a one-shot of any sort, or if it's a weird idea, like I do side shots, I do one-shots in the middle of my campaigns. So I'll, my party will come to the table, remote or in person, and I'll just be like, yep, forget the game we've been running. Here's what we're doing today. And I'll just kind of throw them to the wolves a little bit, right? I'm like, I don't even tell them here's the situation. I'm like, here are characters, here's whatever, here's the situation, here we go. So whatever you can do to sort of pull out the work and make it easy to start, I think is a good idea no matter the situation. If it was a skeptical player, like I've had a couple before that were like friends of mine that are like, I want them to experience this, I'll put in the extra effort to try to map a little bit of the experience to something that they really like or that they really know. On the one hand, the guy that was like kind of thought the whole thing was silly, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a silly combat heavy madness, one shot. And that appealed to him, right? If I had made it some sort of really thinky, puzzly, exploring dungeons with a lot of weird sounding monsters, like it's kind of one of those things where it's like a flavor, or it's like how much seasoning, how much salt do you want to add to the dish? There's a version of this game that we could all run that is going to put a skeptical player into a space where they're like, I knew this was dorky nonsense, right? Like that'd be actually kind of fun to make, like the least welcoming type of session as a means of teaching, hey guys, don't do this stuff. I have, there are even, there's so many examples, right, of people expressing an interest in the game, and you just see them inundated with information, inundated with choices they need to make and character builds, and they could do this and this and this and that and this, and you should look at this and go through here, and you can just kind of see, the excitement drain from people. And I'll contrast that with, I think, one of the best things that is worth reviewing all the time is, and T already linked it, so just scroll up in chat to find it, but that Deborah Ann Wool video, there's a clip where Deborah Ann Wool, if you don't know, is a super prolific DM. I forget the name of her current show, but she's done a number of shows that are really great. She's also like a famous actress. She's in Daredevil and stuff like that, but she's also, I think her first love seems to be D&D. And she's interviewing John Bernthal and just gives him an impromptu encounter, just like puts him into the mindset of somebody playing D&D, and he gets it instantly. It's just natural. Now, granted, they're actors, but I think that aspirationally can be done by all of us at the table. Maybe not exactly in that way, but that's sort of like, that's the goal, that's the target, that's what we want to aim for. Yeah, Ryan, I hope it works on your friends too. Just don't be afraid to recognize that, like, hey, this group is a board game group. This group isn't totally into it. And I say that because my first group that I ever put together was basically family and friends that I played board games with. And we're like, hey, let's do this D&D thing. And 6 or 7 sessions in, it's like, this isn't really for them. I was still brand new. It was just not a good fit. And I was like, let me go find people that really want to play D&D, and I'll make them my friends, right? Obviously, if you can thread that needle, go for it. That's the dream, right? I'm good runner. I mean, one of my longest running games ever was like work friends that I ran a one-shot for as like a work sort of like camaraderie event, right? Like, hey, let's just do this thing. I'll show you guys, how this works. And then just randomly was like, do you guys want to like run a campaign? And everybody, I thought maybe 1 or 2 people would be interested, and I'd do some kind of side thing with them. And every single person said yes. So it does happen. People who've never played the game before, give it a shot and see. Sometimes the stars do indeed align. Toothpaste, I saw your earlier comment. How do I coach new DMs, though? Welcome to my channel. My thesis is my opening statement appears to be just hang out here. Just hang out, find a stream, watch a couple videos that interest you, pop in and ask a question, join the Discord. This channel is how I coach new DMs. I think that's a major part of it. Because I think one of the best ways to learn how to do something is to, like, if you think about it this way, if you wanted to learn how to be a better carpenter and you found out that there was a carpenter shop that you could just go sit in, you could just go in there and sit every day. They're like, yeah, that's fine. I mean, bring your own lunch or whatever, but like, doors open, you know how to, and you could just watch them. And every once in a while, you're like, hey, can I, oh, yeah, that thing, I know you, yeah, let me grab that tool. I know what you're, if that was an experience you could have, forget internships, forget whatever, like just kind of like watching how somebody does their work and then taking what you like and trying to experiment on your own. That's what this channel is. Or that's what I'm doing for, or trying to do for Dungeon Masters, is hang out while I do all this stuff. And if any of it catches your interest, then we can chat about it. See a purple. You need to coach your younger cousin because they're interested in becoming one. You can have 2 DMs at a table. Have them help. You know, if I had if I had a younger cousin that wanted to, hey, I want to DM or whatever, I'd say, great. Which aspect are you most excited about? Let's have you prep a session. Prep an encounter, maybe prep a combat, do something like that, and we'll hand the reins over to you, or you could help with all the monsters in the session, something like that. Like, give them something to do. Give them a piece of the session or a piece of the campaign, and then they can see how those pieces and parts play together as you run together. Exactly, team. Ryan, you're going to watch the wool video now. See you later. Hey, I'll be here. Good luck. Runner, how can you make a time travel campaign with fighting? Time travel campaign. With fighting? Not like a peaceful time travel campaign? See? T? See the cat? Cat jumps away. Cat hair. I'm just saying. Sparks. Static. Something's going on. It's not just in my head. Now, let's ignore the fact that he's done that 7 other times tonight and nothing's happened. Let's ignore that. But it just so happened. I think that to run time travel in D&D, you just have to embrace the fact that it's going to break. You're gonna break the world, and just let it happen. What you can't do in D&D is have a very clean time travel experience, a clean, tight time travel story. Now listen to you. You know what I'm. A clean time travel like story is possible in short bursts if you give only a specific piece of it to somebody, if you let them sort of create one reflection of the whole timeline. But if you're actually creating an ongoing game and time travel is an element of it, prepare yourself for it to be broken, because you can't control what the party's going to do. And if we really admit to ourselves, like, as much as it's fun as storytellers to craft a perfect time travel loop, what's fun about time travel as a player is, think of any time travel scenario where it's like, would I talk to myself? Would I change my past? Would I try to create a bootstrap paradox? Like, your party's going to want to try all that stuff. Like, to whatever extent they care at all about time travel stories, they're going to want to put themselves into the situations that they're aware of, and hey, well, let me go back and change this, right? Let me get the sports almanac and make bets for the next 30 years, and we'll all become rich. I say let them do it. I say the fun part of this type of game that we all run, that we all enjoy, is that we can take an idea like that and let it play out, and let it find the human elements of it within the game that maybe you wouldn't find any other way, because it is going to get messy. What is a bootstrap paradox? A bootstrap paradox is if I go back in time, sometimes it's called like a grandfather paradox. If I go back in time and kill my own grandfather, therefore I won't exist. Therefore I can't go back and kill my own grandfather. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you create that, this is where typically, if that kind of thing happens, you're either end of the world territory, like we've got to fix it, Marty, or else you're going to cease to exist, or you're creating splintering timelines, in which case, you can deal with it that way. I think they're bootstrap, grandfather, aren't these at least like largely interchangeable? It's describing a paradox that it basically invalidates itself. Or it's like the inverse, right? The bootstrap is something happens that way, and it's the only way that it could have happened, whereas the grandfather paradox is you're causing something to cease to be that would need to exist without an origin point. So they're often used interchangeably, even though it's almost like one's a positive, one's a negative, but similar sort of. For all intents and purposes, in your D&D game, it's going to be something like that breaks it when it comes to time. It's going to be something very basic, like, player shenanigans causing some sort of chaos. But it's worth it. Chaos. I'm not crazy about like chaos gremlin kind of activity in games, but if you're, but the type of chaos that is sort of engaging with sort of the merits of the story, or the merits of the time travel, or whatever premise you're putting in front of them, like, that is worth it, right? If you're telling a ghost story, and that game turns into the entire party being ghosts in that world, that was a successful campaign. That was a successful, interesting thing. Like, well, I went off the rails, everybody's a ghost. It's like, yeah, you probably just told a story that couldn't exist except through D&D. It's like if you're telling a like if you're telling some sort of a heist, it's a campaign built around a bunch of thieves, and those thieves, even within the party, are like, you know, backstabbing each other, and there's this big intricate thing that they all end up caught. It all ends up a failure. It's like, that sounds like a pretty interesting like crime or heist story that played out, and everybody got to play a role, right? That's unique to D&D. If you do time travel, some of the best time travel stories are when the universe is cracked in half by somebody's foolish or wishful thinking. So just let it happen. See what happens. The nice part is it's just a story. Nothing's actually going to break, except for people's minds. Just know that, you know, some of these more ambitious campaign ideas are a lot more work for a dungeon master. So, you know, proceed carefully. Bootstrap is where Marty's parents name him after himself. Yeah. Yep. Whereas a version of the grandfather paradox, or at least it would be a paradox until you have to, like a minor version of it is that, like, you know, this is the kind of stuff that the rules of Back to the Future work a very certain way, but they meet in the parking lot of Twin Pines Mall, and then Marty goes back in time and knocks down a pine. So in the future, it's the Lone Pine Mall. So how did they ever meet? Like, when Marty goes back, he's watching himself go back in time at the Lone Pine Mall. So I guess it all changed then, because otherwise Doc would say, we need to meet at the Twin Pines Mall, and Marty would say, what are you talking about? That's not a thing. So Back to the Future adapts those changes by saying, like, well, these changes reverberate through and change dynamically. It's like, okay, well, if that's the case, then, you know, like, their version of a grandfather paradox is that no problem, no paradox here. We're just going to eliminate the problem. The universe is going to go on just fine. Marty and his siblings just aren't going to be in it. And that's the version of the crisis. But that's a unique take on it. It works super well, and you could use that kind of idea in D&D, I think, pretty well. Like the Back to the Future model of time travel, I think probably adapts to D&D in a pretty good way, because it's already optimized for easily understanding what's going on, ease of storytelling, people stepping into it without, like, your mind falling apart. Because otherwise, it just gets really complicated really fast. Yeah, there you go. I'm slandering your river. Sorry. Time River. The Time River lives on. Runner, how do you make a campaign with mystery and fighting combined? Become obsessed with good clues. A mystery campaign is going to live or die on the quality of its clues. And that's the first clue that you need to follow to make your mystery campaign. I described world building the other night with Otter as stuff that doesn't matter until it hits the table, but I think of world building as also figuring out things like bad guys. Well, bad guys that hit the table? Absolutely. Bad guys that aren't on the table? I don't care. Or at least I don't care nearly as much. So if the orc warrior is going to be somebody the party is going to face this session or the next session, I really want to think about how to I guess hint at this dude's whole deal, right? So people are going to start talking about what he's done. People are going to talk about his motivations. There's going to be probably evidence of the crimes that he's committed and his ambitions. And then when they meet him, it's going to tie together with whatever speech he gives and whatever he's asking of the party, blah, blah, blah. But if I've got this vague idea that there's like an orc kingdom, you know, I'm not going to spend as much time. I just need to think like, okay, maybe they're bitter that they aren't accepted into the region like other leaders are. Got it. That's enough. That's all I need for that. I don't need to go, well, 800 years ago, you see, when the war with the elves and the orcs was finally resolved by the king of the West, like, doesn't matter. Your problem isn't that you create 3,000 years of history that won't ever matter. It's that I'm making a magic system and I have no characters at all. Well, why are you making a magic system? Is it a magic, like, you're creating factions and primary NPCs and stuff, you think of it as world building. So, gotcha. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, you probably don't need to do that. That's something you're choosing to do because you want to, and that's fine. But you don't need to complete that to have a good first session that even hints at that. Your first session can be amazing, and somewhere in it, like I could probably tease the Time River for months of game before anybody untangles what it even means. It's like, okay, well, if I know that there's this like high concept of like a time river that binds reality and magic and all of this who knows what. Okay, well, break it down. The first evidence the party might see of that is going to be like maybe I'll draw like a little like a water temple symbol, you know, or there's a special sort of filter on like canteens, or there's some sort of a you know, all of a sudden the rivers start changing color or something. And this is because there are loyalists, there are people who believe something about this time river concept, and they're just trying to get the word out. Maybe they're trying to recruit. Maybe they're trying to spread whatever gospel that they have about this. Gotcha. You have no countries, no towns, no NPCs, no companions, no inklings, something like that. I've got to do the functional world building. Well, you need a starting town. And then you need some vague placement for the rest. Like, you can draw a regional map, or you can, you know, come up with a list of town names and things like that. I just think that all that I mean, you know, I don't think that outlining a world is nearly as time consuming as world building a world or fully building a world. If it helps, think of it as the difference between world building and building hooks for your world. What you're describing is you need hooks, right? You don't need to have the history of a country or the history of a people or a faction or a character. You need their name and probably a couple of words, right? You need, you know, Jonas, the master carpenter. There we go. That's somebody, and for some reason he's leading a town in the east. There we go. Now that's an architectural carpentry. Yeah, exactly, Jonas. Because I'm not good at names on the spot. These are the things I write down ahead of time. You feel this mental block about creating the starting town without having session 0's character creation done yet. That's fair. That's fair. I mean, you can start to sort of like, you can frame something, right? You can say like, this is going to be the big idea of this starting location. Like, maybe you think it's going to be in a dying town in the hills, meaning that people have been leaving and the party is going to be, they're going to be the last ones there. You could have that idea even before figuring out much about the characters, because probably everybody's going to have a reason to leave a town that's on its way out, right? Or they might want to leave to try to get resources or funding to help bring the town back from, you know, from collapse, let's say. There is a bit of chicken and the egg, right? What do we know about the world? How do we determine, you know, where are your characters from? It's like, well, I don't know, what does it look like in your world? Like, you know, figuring those things out. I wouldn't, though, worry so much. Like, of the choices, you know, when you're talking about a mental block about creating the town without having session 0 scare, I think that's actually not a bad mental block. I think that you could, especially to embrace sort of the to reduce unknowns and to reduce unnecessary work, right? We've got two options. One is, okay, well, I guess I'll map out, I guess I'll build like a coastline and some mountains and the hills and the plains and a little bit to the south. I guess I'll build this whole little sandbox. Hopefully I can make use of it. That feels risky, right? That feels like building a bunch of stuff that might not matter. Or, well, what's the challenge on the other side? Well, we have our session 0. Now I understand their characters. Okay, well, based on what they're saying, it needs to be a desert community. And they've got maybe one season left and they think this town's going to get buried by the sands. Or, oh, this needs to be actually a mining community. This would work really well in the mountains. If you wait until you learn about all that stuff, well, our challenge, we have a challenge, but the challenge is maybe better than wasting our time. Our challenge is, I've got a week to make this starting town. And that could be crazy, or 2 weeks, or however long. Like, oh no, I've got, it's like, yeah, okay, well that's, then let's make it, let's literally only make that town. Let's not even make the surrounding area yet. Let's make sure that first adventure is going to take place square in this town in the forest nearby. And then you've got till session 2 or 3 or 4 to build out the rest of the area, right? I really do think that it's a worthwhile muscle to develop, because we're not building games for everybody to play. We're building games for our people to play, our table to play. Building that muscle, that reflex, that you know, that vigor, building that back and forth of like, I just learned this about this session, now I've got to prep for the next session. That is that iteration, that loop is good to practice, I think. Runner, you should probably have as many villains in the campaign as it is fun to play with. Obviously, that's like, it's like saying how much salt should be in this dish. It's like, well, how big is it? You know, I run campaigns that are sometimes multiple years in length, so there are a handful of villains. But if you're running something that's 10 sessions long, maybe only 2 or 3 villains tops, right? Maybe you don't need that many. So T, you're hearing something I'm not saying that is opposed to my advice. Okay, let's hear it. Let's see. Hearing something you were not saying. Create things on the fly. I need to start reading through my dagger heart source means to gain mental. Don't do that. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. I would rephrase that to everybody, like, there's it could be, right? It could be that if you have a wiki in your brain, it'll be easier to make stuff. Sure, that's fair. That's a fair way to go. I can't expect, I would never expect people to do it the way that I have chose to do it. I think there are tons of fun ways to run and play D&D, but my personal preference, you know, to run a game and not know, like, I run session 1 and I don't yet know very much about session 2. Like, I think I do. I know almost nothing about session 3, session 4, session 5. And that's a comfortable place for me, because that means that I can, because I feel comfortable in the time span between sessions, or from session 1 to session 3. I'm going to figure that out. Not everybody's comfortable with that. They want to have more of that mapped out. I do think it's a type of creative muscle that you can work on. It's going to be painful, and then it's going to get better and easier. But yeah, I mean, it's just one way. It's just one way. Hey, Nicole. We're doing just fine. I'm going to refresh my coffee so that I don't have that going on. So I'll be right back. 2 minutes. Sure, homebrew's not the only way to play. It's the way I like to play, but not the only way. Totally, yeah. Well, I mean, here's the hard lesson that I've yet to learn, and I don't know if I will learn it. It's what I'm suspicious about. You know, my goal is to take a lot of the ideas, a lot of the things that I sort of write and plan, and have them in a system agnostic way that people in different systems can play with some adaptation, right? Now, I could have a hard lesson to learn in the future that's not doable. I don't believe it is a problem. I don't believe it will be a problem. I believe that there will be different systems that require different layers of sort of connective tissue, right? So, you know, if I want to, there's probably not a whole lot of work, for instance, if I want to say, here's this one shot I made about a cottage, and here's the version of it you can play for 5e, here's the version of it you can play for Pathfinder. Maybe it's even not that much to say, here's the version to play in Pathfinder, here's the version to play in Call of Cthulhu. But there's probably going to be a trickier translation when it's like, well, here's the version to play here, here's the version to play in Blades of the Dark. I think that ideas... It's going to be interesting because the way that I'm going to learn these systems is by finding out how much adaptation of the ideas that I create are necessary to work in these different systems, right? And I'm not sure how much of that is, you know, I'm just not sure what that's going to look like yet. Okay. All right. By the way, where you how far are you into season 3? Sure. Yep. That's fair. Okay. Just gut checking. Just seeing where. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I like the actress, but it's also like, man, who would want that task after a couple seasons of that show to be like, it's me now, you know? Like that'd be pretty intimidating. Well, you've convinced me to watch it again, so now I just need to find time to watch it. Well, but isn't it? I mean, without getting it, but it feels such a parallel to what you're doing. Like I'm so curious to see where you end up at the conclusion of their story, because it feels a little bit like loop causality problem. What do we do about it? And different people are answering it in different ways. And they're just it feels like they're just like, strap in, we're gonna ride this to the center of the of the black hole. We're just gonna see what we find. Not many more ambitious things you can do with a story. I think it's pretty out there in terms of ambition. Gotcha. Yeah, I see what you're saying. And really, but nobody saves themselves by traveling to the eye, right? They just save. Things carry on. Yeah, no one gets out of the which is I mean, that's a possibility. That and that sort of deciding and committing to that for any piece of the lore of your world, that just tells you how much gravitas to put around it, how much you need to indicate that. There's nothing at all wrong with players choosing to go down a road they can't come back from. You just want them to know that that's what they're doing. The drama is going to come from the party committing to that and seeing it through, and then actually playing it all through. Like that would be interesting. Did I hear you settling on your factions? I don't think so. Was that in the Discord maybe? I may have missed that. Sorry. Gotcha. I don't think it was here. I don't recall your affections. use your items. Today is the rainy day, so don't hoard valuable tools. Rewards await those who use liberally. Running out because there's too much history being preserved or something. Time water remains the reverse line. People remember the events that happened. Time water in the past, once forgotten, the time runs into a capital of the time sea. Let's bring it back to the top of the flow again. Those who don't remember history will repeat it. Did you read The Giver? I just finished it today after starting it like 2 weeks ago. It's a very quick read. It's got some interesting ideas in it regarding what you're even describing right now. Yeah, I read it about that time too. It's interesting how the perspective shifts on what you pick up on. But there's that's a kind of a the dystopia, the dystopian reality of The Giver is largely, you know, one society's answer to what do we do about remembering history? You know, how do we take these lessons forward? And theirs is a take on it. You know, it's a bold one. No history from before a certain point. Two factions have two epistemological beliefs about the coming drought. One thinks we have to destroy our history to enable our future. Cool. And the other faction thinks that we have to let the spring fully run dry and we will wash down with it to a new time. No proof of either of these happening before, or any proof of philosophy is true. Sure, it's like what's beyond a black hole, nobody knows, right? Exactly. Well, what you're choosing is the we all do it. As soon as you start writing a fictional world, you're choosing your lens of focus. And the lens of focus that you're choosing is basically observable reality. And that's a reasonable place to stop. You're saying, you know, this is the combined knowledge of existence at the time. It's like, okay, that's where I'll and in fact, I'm of the belief in fictional worlds that that's usually the more interesting place to go, because while it can be fun to play with systems and ideas and to tinker with, like, you know, outside the bounds of observable, outside of what, it's also inherently inhuman. It's not dramatic. It isn't revelatory about the the human or the humanoid conditions, I guess, if maybe it's a world of cat people. But like, the important thing is what people believe is true. And sometimes you don't even get to find out about that. So well, now you're like, okay, now you're writing from the other direction, which I find infinitely more interesting, because now we're talking in the realm of things that can be experienced at the table. Absolute truthism, absolute defining the system. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I guess it was all like somewhere along the line there was a spark and a thing and a flash and whatever. But if we say, wait, why do these people think that? It's like, well, there's probably some unexplained artifact. There's probably a thing. There's probably a message. There's probably a translation. There's probably an object. There's probably something that fell, or something that was dug up, or something that was discovered, or something that is believed to be true. And an entire philosophy is built around that. And is it really that? You don't actually have to answer that. It's not as important as the fact that they believe that it is. And sometimes you'll get lucky, and that artifact, you go, actually, this does tie back to, there is an indication of something that is maybe absolutely real. But then that, even if that's comforting for you, on the other hand, is that ever knowable at the table? Is that ever something that the group or the world can uncover? Maybe not. No, I get it. You got to have it's an ambitious idea. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. I wouldn't tell you not to do it. I'm just not going to have... I'm going to engage at this level, whereas once you're talking about like, ooh, now how does this, like, oh, now I'm interested in this topic a whole lot more, because it's getting closer to, you know, what do the players think the relic is? Maybe the players think it's BS, or they think that it's faked, or they think that it's a story that they want to investigate. Now you've got, I mean, this is broad strokes, but if you're living in the Silver Age and you say, this is ridiculous, why do you guys think that there was a time before us, or that there's going to be a time after? And they unveil their relic, and it's a bronze statue, and it's like, we don't have this material. This doesn't exist. But flip it over, because maybe they only reveal to people that it's like clearly some sort of carved statue. And they're like, this is from a time that we don't know, from people that we don't know. Here's what we don't show anybody. And they flip it over, and there's language carved into it. What if there's language that is foreign alongside language that is ours? It's like, there were people before us, and our language changed, and there was a time where we overlapped with these people, and there's evidence of it. You know, could it be faked? Sure. Maybe that one member of the party has this crazy, like, one-time use, see into the past the truth of a magic item, and they use it this one time, and now you do learn something. And we'll pick that up next time, right? No matter what, you'll have a week to figure out what. that's what I, yeah. And you've done the heavy lifting to give yourself a lot to work with in regards to all those things, but, you know, it's fun stuff. Runner, what's the easiest way to make the players choose their own armor and weapons? There's a player's handbook if you're playing 5th edition, and it's all in there. I don't know the page number, but it's all in there. You could also just Google 5e armor weapons tables, and I think there's a bunch of options. Why did they... Okay, I've like triple checked this word. Why would they... Why roll and sword? Why would they phrase it that way? You need to give this campaign a front name so I don't actually call it Time River in front of my players one day. Yeah, you probably do. Your one named NPC is an inspiration based on a name. You mentioned Elizabeth before. I think she's time traveling somehow to exist in many iterations at the same time. Love it. Now, especially with the inspiration you've had recently, give each of those iterations different motivations and make them work against each other. And let the party figure out that craziness. No, guys. I know that's what Elizabeth has been saying, but we need to listen to Beth, okay? They're like, wait. No. Yeah, Lizzie's got a good point. But what was her name? Elizabeth? Hold on. It's like they start. Yeah, you could. Yeah, EB, like the different acronyms or different. You know, you've got a Beth, you've got an Eliza, you've got a Lizzie, you've got a. Ooh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Do one of those things where it's like write out Elizabeth and then show it, do it backwards or something like that. Elizabeth, so Teb anagram. Ooh, see now you're that's the fun stuff. And if that's not a name, maybe that's some sort of a message that is encoded by people who are following her. Maybe eventually she's like, actually, I was so wrong that we need to, you know, I'm the inverse of, I'm the reverse Flash of who I was. And that's like her, you know, sign off. That's her moniker or whatever. And the great part about watching shows, she leads both factions. Come on, it's good. I mean, she's you know, the party asks, like, how can you be so confident? It's like, because I've already seen that side fail. I did that already. I beat myself already, and I'm her now. Every NPC is Elizabeth. This is why we watch dense German sci-fi, because then you get fun inspiration that a lot of people at your table are not going to be aware of. That's why we do it. Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you've got to so this is one of those concepts that I feel like you can outline based on how long, how far you think you can squeeze, how many revelations can you squeeze out of this concept, right? So certainly having a sibling of a character with a kidsy version, like a Lizzie type name, right? That way they'd be like, oh, it was your sister the whole time. It's like, okay, that one's in the future. And then you've got something like Elizabeth. You've also got like, initials. You've also got nicknames. Like you can almost figure out like how many layers and how many times you can revisit in new ways. Like by the third or fourth time, probably not that time, probably by the third time is when players are going to go, it's always Elizabeth. Behind everything. Like imagine you could seed into every little clue and every little connected tissue, and they're like, wait a minute, what was the name on that? And what was the name on that? Like, that's going to feel like you're being hounded by some sort of time culprit, right? And then you have Elizabeth show up with like a mustache on, trying to... She's just out of ideas. She's like, I've got a silly hat. Yeah, exactly. Did you ever see the Prestige? The Prestige. That's the one with Hugh Jackman and not Hugh Jackman. I love the moment when getting to the end of the journal, translating the end of the journal, and that it was all a big ruse, that it was faked. Like, I mean, part of it, we're now spiraling in on exactly the meta when it crosses into the meta and is like, this I've wasted your life with you chasing after the stuff that I did or whatever. Imagine that there is an exchange between two Elizabeths, but a third one recognizes that they can imitate that and carry that out. They could like imagine the insanity, the confusion that you could cause by imitating versions of yourself to other people for the purposes of okay, brain hurt now. You could do a lot. That's all I'm saying. I also know that by using special techniques, roll and sword at the same time to perform a fast stab. Note, it uses stamina points. Yeah, that could be fun. This is where you'd really have to define the spiral. You'd have to define the path, the character development of a character like that. If you want to take a character and dice them into 3 or 4 characters, this person has to have experienced some stuff that transitions them along the way. And you want to probably put the most deceptive one of them at the end, because they're going to be the ones with the most knowledge. Like each step along, they gain more knowledge. Maybe they think they're outsmarting, and they're not. And so you have to, but I think if you can justify that, and maybe there can be, physical as well as name as well as ideological changes along the way, that can really help. Oh yeah, we've talked about this before, right? Never knew which one he was going to be. It's very good stuff. Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, you also have, in the same way that Interstellar played with the black hole, and you can justify anything. You're also playing with similar sorts of like beyond what you can see and comprehend type of stuff. So you could you can really mess things up. You can have somebody that goes through a couple of transitory states, and then some sort of black hole reflection of them that messes things up in a whole other way. I mean, imagine if as a result of sort of, touching the black hole, which I'm just using this to like avoid stepping on some nuance of the time river that I don't understand. But let's say that getting so close to oblivion can cause fractals, like can almost cause ripples. Let's say that Elizabeth, or whichever version of Elizabeth that becomes aware of this, knows that, okay, guys, as a result of what I'm doing, this is intense work that nobody else can understand, there are crazy versions of me out there. There are alternate, I'm thinking of like Bioshock Infinite type of things. Like, there are other Elizabeths out there, and I know what it seems like. But that's not me. Those are mistakes. I don't even know where those are from, honestly. But that's not me. That's a different. It's like, are you sure you should be continuing with these experiments, Elizabeth? You're creating murder bots that are you. Fair enough. Oh yeah. Well, I didn't. So, yeah, you mentioned reading the Giver. I didn't realize that it had been further added to. So I read it certainly probably in the 90s. It came out in 93. So I probably wouldn't have read it after 2002 at the latest. And I guess there have been three others. I forget the names of them, but there have been three other books in that same universe written. And there was a hint at the end of the fourth one to a book called The Taker being written. And it's like, oh, but I guess Lois Lowry, the author's still around. She just never wrote that fifth book. And I'm like, that, you know, that sounds really interesting. But I haven't. I don't know if I'll keep reading that series or not. I like that idea though. Cloning to get more. I had an idea like that in one of my Underdark arcs in one of my games, that they kept running into the same guy with different numbered names. It wasn't a very well thought out concept. I'd like to revisit it and do it again, but the reality was he was some sort of a wizard stuck in a mountain in the Underdark, stuck in some crazy trap, and all he knew is that he was stuck in the cell, but if he walked out of this room where he was trapped, you know, he could another him would be there. The problem was each of them that he became kept abandoning him and going off to live their lives, leaving this poor guy stuck there. So by the time the party got there, he's like, yeah, you've probably seen a lot of me. Every once in a while I get desperate and I leave, and it just duplicates me again. And as much as I believe every time I step out of this that I'm going to help myself, I keep abandoning myself, and I'm still here. So I just don't walk through anymore. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Yeah, I need to revisit that idea again. I feel like that would be what I just described would be a fun concept for a one shot with like a depressed wizard. Which maybe as I say that out loud, maybe people wouldn't find that fun, but I think it could be very interesting. Oh yeah. Yeah. Silo, which I didn't stick with. I watched the season and then said, screw it. The ones who walk away from... No, I don't know that. Check the maps. Someone has made maps for you. There are secrets hidden on them, so look carefully. You are here. Page 26. Now, in my defense, page 26, there was a lot of chat discussion in that one, so I'm not gonna... You know, this is not a best representation of... But I'm into the maps, so let's go. That literally says fairies. That's what that said this whole time? No. No, come on now. Imagine utopia, but only gets to be utopia because there's a child being neglected in a cell. Treated like an animal and it's undernourished. Everyone almost knows that the child is. I assumed that would be some sort of like a wall fairy or like a foundation, like a ruin fairy or something, but it's a Rosetta Stone thing. Okay. Let me get this. Interesting. Well, maybe I'll find it. Cool, cool. Another one down. Alright, what do we have here? Overworld. It's got ringing the bell. Oh, sorry, I didn't. To the west of the Great Palace of the Gardens, many paths are broken, but there is a way. Magic dagger, a magic item made from a fairy. Use it to freeze foes with ice. I think so, yeah. Wait a minute. Gotcha. Never mind. Jeez. Ringing the west bell. Can you see the bell but not reach it? Try going to the west garden via the dark tomb. those things connect, but all right. Page 29. I'm actually excited for, well, some of these maps more than others, but hey, what's up, Sam? So the only way to get to it was early, and the only way to get there is through the dark too. Guess we'll look at the underground passages. Gotcha. I see. Hey, rusting's good too. Under the well, flooded layer beneath the surface filled with monsters. Walking in water will slow you, but also some foes. Watch out for what lies below. Tip, use a shield. Watch your vigor. Yeah, because you know what I'm getting closer to. I can feel it. Maybe. Oh, I don't know. Just close. I mean, most of the stuff that I wanted to translate from the very beginning has been the back half of this manual. I've liked all of the stuff, the lore, and getting all the specifics, but all the stuff that I'm like, is later on. So that's what I'm excited for. Okay. Beneath the earth are many scary places. Be sure to take a lantern. Below the fortress is a cave. Thank you, page 30. Fortress of the Eastern Vault. Okay. I may just be missing the pronunciation of this word, so I think it's correct. But Fortress of the Eastern Vault. One key to the Shadow Oubliette is hidden by the last great machine of war. When the siege was done, this beast was cacoused into this lonely purpose. Yeah, that's fine. I don't think it's a big deal. I think to get the gist. Gotcha. So where the wow, yeah, I did add a vowel, but it's where the connection between the K and the S. That reads to me as a cow rather than just passing through as a KST. But that's okay. It's tough when it's written small. It's not as clear. It's just how I was seeing it. Hey Pug, welcome to the stream. You're a new DM. Do I have tips? So many tips. I would say that the whole channel is probably tips. Do you have any specific questions I can riff on? Otherwise, almost every video on my channel at this point that's not a short video is a clip from these streams of people asking DM questions, and I basically just clip them, give them a title that matches pretty much the question that was asked, and then post it. So there should be a lot. I think I've got, I don't know if it's 200 yet, but there's a lot on there. So hopefully you'll find what you're looking for. Or you can just ask me something, like I said, more specific, just because it's a very broad question. Hey, the ruined atoll. Under the library is the skeleton of the great abbey that served as its annex. Once, some others made this home and built on the ruins. Only flora and fauna live here now, but the frogs may be on patrol. Summoning the library path means venerating to the four corners, so take a knee. Means up. Yeah, I pretty much figured out everything on this page, I think. Yeah. Oh, but the frog's domain. Not much to translate here. Okay, interesting. Page 36. Many have sought the secrets of this world, drawn by the great power and other secret legends. The librarian has learned much, including powerful sorceries. He makes his home high above the clouds, waiting for foolish ruin seekers to bring him more pages. Although powerful, his tragedy is his belief that the Holy Cross resides in the cathedral. He will never visit the far shore. Dang. Okay. 37, 38, 39. Hello, Crane. I've been dying to translate the cathedral map and the far shore map. Secrets. Path of the Holy Cross. Hidden secrets. Including clearing the game, A and B. Wisdom. Damn fairies. Secret gathering place, final treasure. Golden path. Cards. Okay. But very good progress despite some, I would say, positive distractions. We had a lot of good chats in chat. I started super late, which of course didn't help. That's how it goes. So we made it from page 26 to page 37. Speeding up. Speeding up. Still a bit more to get through, but pictures coming together. It's tempting to do more this weekend, but got lots of other stuff to work on too, so the game and the translation continues. Put my hours on blueprints to shame with this game, but it's rare to have something fun to translate like this, so I'm gonna enjoy it. Thanks everybody for hanging out. Lots of good questions and chatting. We'll dig back into this on Friday. Who knows? One of these times will be the final time. But not yet. See you guys next time.